If homosexuals are allowed their civil rights, then so would prostitutes or thieves or anyone else.
Marriage cannot be severed from its cultural, religious, and natural roots.
The rancorous debate is part politics, part religion, part science. Is homosexuality a sin? Is it a choice?
It is sin because the Bible says so.
I've never seen a man in my life I wanted to marry. If one ever looks at me like that, I'm going to kill him and tell God he died.
God says in the Old and the New Testament that it's an abomination.
God calls it an abomination. It's an abomination. It's an abomination.
The earliest recollection that I have of first thinking, wow, I'm different. And I think it was about 7th grade, and some friends somehow got hold of a Playboy magazine. And I realized that these pictures were apparently doing things for these other guys that they weren't doing for me. And the second thing that I realized was I better not show or say that these weren't doing anything for me. I was always familiar with what the Bible said. Anyone who was thought to be that way was an abomination before God.
We went to church every Sunday. My father was president of our congregation, and my mother was a Sunday school teacher, and so we were a pretty involved family. I remember very distinctly when I was a kid when I first learned that so much of the world wasn't Christian, and that just kind of blew my mind, because I was of the perspective that everyone was Christian because everyone wanted to go to heaven, you know. And then I learned that only 1/3 of the world was Christian, and I thought to myself, are that many people going to hell? And I remember one Sunday where my pastor preached on homosexuality, and it wasn't in the best of light, but I didn't want to question because I knew that the answers wouldn't be good.
Growing up in the Catholic Church, it was never something that I heard explicitly, but I definitely knew that was part of the Bible. And in fact, there were 2 things that I remember that were an abomination: homosexuality and suicide. And I'll never forget thinking that, oh my gosh, you can never commit suicide because you're going to go to hell, and you can never be gay because you're going to go to hell.
When people ask questions about homosexuality, almost always they follow with, and what does the Bible really say about it?
This particular one is Leviticus chapter 20, verse 13. It says, if a man lies with a male as with a woman, both of them have committed an abomination. They shall be put to death. Their blood is upon them. If you read the Bible on a face value level, that reading disregards several very important things. The first one is just a few verses before that. Moses teaches in Leviticus that it is an abomination to eat shrimp.
A few verses above and below, it says you shouldn't plant 2 different seeds in the same hole. You shouldn't commingle your crops.
It is an abomination to eat a rabbit.
There's other law that says you shouldn't wear linen and wool together.
It was not innately immoral for a Jew, but it was an abomination.
Thing to recognize the historical context in which this was written. That particular section on a man not lying with a man goes to procreation. It is about a nation trying to grow. At the time, the Hebrew people understood that male seed was actually all of nascent life contained right there. Women had nothing to do with actually the birth except for just incubation. So that particular section was about saving seed only to procreate so the nation could grow.
I like your show. I like how you call homosexuality an abomination.
I don't say homosexuality is an abomination, Mr. President. The Bible does.
Yes, it does. Leviticus
18:22.
Chapter and verse. I wanted to ask you a couple of questions while I had you here. I'm interested in selling my youngest daughter into slavery as sanctioned in Exodus 21:7. She's a Georgetown sophomore, speaks fluent Italian, always cleared the table when it was her turn. What would a good price for her be? While thinking about that, can I ask another? My chief of staff insists on working on the Sabbath. Exodus 35:2 clearly says he should be put to death. Am I morally obligated to kill him myself, or is it okay to call the police?
It was hard to hear. He told us that he had told Britta a year before, and I just thought, a whole year? He told somebody, and he couldn't tell me.
A lot of stuff happened. My Dad had a brick thrown through his office window. My car window was smashed in.
When the windshield was broken, then I thought, you know, this is getting very bold. And I remember never being able to go to sleep until Jay got home at night. Because, you know, you just think.
But see, also gay bashing is kind of fun, you know.
It's kind of fun.
Cause when they come out of their like gay bars and stuff, and they're walking, and you beat them up, and they're like, "Oh, leave me alone." They're so fat, ugh, you know. They're like
they're wimpy. Is that what you're saying?
Not wimpy, but they're just like, you know, gay.
Is it a choice?
I heard it is.
Hello. What's your name?
Christian.
Well, Christian, let's see what the latest science has to say.
Oh, that.
To help us, here are two gay people, George and Martha. Before we can answer, is it a choice, we must first determine what it means to be gay. How do you know you're a homosexual?
The same way you know that you're straight.
Since the 19th century, many theories about homosexuality have been offered that are untestable and contradictory.
Male homosexuality is the result of an absent father and an overbearing mother. See ya.
Stand up straight, dear.
And the female homosexual has never recovered from her anger over not having the penis. She wishes to avenge her perceived castration by taking another female as her sexual object.
You're kidding me, right?
Well, I've always been told that homosexuality is unnatural.
Is it? In fact, homosexual relations are common in nature, including zebras, baboons, dolphins, sheep, buffalo, ducks, foxes, elephants, horses, gorillas, moose, house cats, pigs, mice, rabbits, swans, and lions, to name a few.
Well, okay, but we're not animals. Human beings have free will.
You don't just decide who to love.
Settle down there, Martha. Christian does have a point, but let's take a look at the most recent scientific evidence. As they study sexual orientation, scientists are currently looking at three main areas: genes, hormones, and birth order. Of course, most of these studies focus only on male sexuality. Sorry, Martha.
What a shock.
Let's first look at studies of identical twins.
Hi.
When one identical twin is a gay man, the other twin is gay up to 70% of the time, far higher than would occur if genes played no role. In fact, these studies show that genes play a greater role in determining sexual orientation than they do in whether or not you're right or left-handed. And we don't punish the left-handed. Well, not anymore.
Let's get it!
Scientists have recently noticed a striking statistical phenomenon. Studies show that having older brothers increases the odds of a boy being homosexual.
Moms always baby the youngest, making them gay.
No, that's not it. When a woman is pregnant with a boy, scientists are realizing that her female body often sees the male fetus as a foreign object and begins to produce antibodies against it. The more boys a woman has, the more adept her body becomes at feminizing the fetus, which may explain why with every successive boy, the odds that he will be gay go up significantly.
All right, maybe you all accept it, but what about those people who started out gay and say they became straight by discovering God? What about ex-gay ministries?
Even so-called ex-gay ministries don't claim to change a person's inner sexual desires, just his or her sexual conduct.
We're still gay.
If these places really work, why don't they all use the same technique? Why does each ministry experiment its own way?
Well...
And why have so many members and leaders recanted earlier claims that they were changed?
Maybe these programs don't work for everyone, but what's the harm?
How about the feelings of shame and guilt they instill and reinforce in their victims? Or the money, energy, and time they sap from people who have nothing wrong with them?
Says you.
Well, in point of fact, not just George says that, Christian. The American Medical Association, the American Psychiatric Association, the American Psychological Association, the American Psychoanalytic Association, the American Academy of Pediatrics, and the National Association of Social Workers have all stated that homosexuality should not be treated as a mental disorder, and that they oppose attempts at reparative or conversion therapy, and that sexual orientation is not a choice and cannot be changed.
So that's it. I'm supposed to believe that it's not a choice just because all those doctors and scientists say so?
Or you could just ask us.
I do know this one girl named Heather who goes back and forth, but she's
Shut up.
The information in this educational cartoon is based upon studies that can be found in any university library, with the possible exception of the Bob Jones University in South Carolina.
And it was all like a fresh wound. I think if somebody would have asked me then if I could just take a magic wand and wave it and have Jake become straight, I think I would have waved the wand. I think now, how ridiculous. If I had that wand now and could just wave it and make Jake straight. No way. That's part of what Jake is, and part of who he is, and part of the wonderful qualities he has, and part of the reason I love him so much.